got you into gardening?
I started gardening about 4 or 5 years ago, and a lot of it started because I had a little time on my hand one summer. You know, I'm a school teacher, so I had a little time during this one particular summer, and I mean, what better way to spend some time than to start your own little garden? Now, of course, I didn't know anything about gardening. You know, I'm one of those city boys, so I didn't know anything. All I went is dug up some stuff and put some seeds down and put some plants down, and before you know it, plants started to grow. So that showed me right then and there that this thing is something worth doing, and if I could do it, I'm thinking anybody can do it. So that's what got me started. But more importantly, there's a whole lot of benefits to this thing. You know, I'm a student of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, and if anybody knows anything about the minister, he's always shown us, and the Nation of Islam for that matter, has always promoted the necessity of having land and cultivating it, growing your own foods. You know, there are tremendous benefits to it. Of course, it's healthier, especially with all these genetically modified foods and seeds that are dominating the market right now. So it's healthier, it's more cost effective, especially during this economic crises. So it's a win-win situation. There's really no negatives when it comes to doing your own garden. Of course, I'm no perfection. I'm not a expert at this thing. I'm still learning, and I learn something new every year. I try something new every year, and the more I get into it, the more I love it. And now I'm at a point where I feel like everybody needs to be doing this before we are forced to do it. And the way the economy is right now, shoot, I think everybody's going to be needing to do this in a minute. But again, this is something that's always been an integral part of the Nation of Islam's teaching, and it's really common sense. History has even shown that during a certain point in time during one of the wars, I believe it was World War II, I could be wrong, but even the government promoted what they called victory gardens, where they wanted the citizens of America to start growing their own food, because America was literally starting to become low on their food supply. So they encouraged the people, to grow their own food. And right now, there's a shortage of real food, of whole food, and most of what we're buying in the stores is not real food. But you'll notice that the government is not encouraging people to grow their own food, which really shows me that the government is really not that concerned about the people's well-being. They're about that almighty dollar.
Okay, so what got you into beekeeping?
Oh man, beekeeping. This is my first year getting into beekeeping, and just like gardening, I mean, I've just fallen in love with it, literally. You know, it's like you can't keep me away from these bees now. And again, a lot of that stems from being a student of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, following the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Quran encourages Muslims to study Allah's creation, to study His creation and learn from His creation. And the Quran speaks heavily about this particular creature called the bee. And to me, it's certainly one of the most phenomenal creatures, because we're taught to be productive. And if you look at the bee is probably one of the most productive, industrious creatures on this earth. And again, in studying the bee, I fall in love with it. This is my first year, so I've started my own hives. I have bees growing, and I can show you later. And they're growing, they're producing too. And in fact, the gentleman who got me into beekeeping that I've learned under, he went and checked out my bees not too long ago, and these are new colonies that I have, and he was like, man, these things are growing. He said, I'm jealous. So they're really working. So there are a lot of benefits to beekeeping. One, the production of honey. You know, I don't even have time to go into all the health benefits that honey and particularly local honey, has for people. But even the wax and the byproducts of what bees produce, it has so many uses. And again, this is part of learning Allah's creations and cultivating his creation. That's what we're taught. And you really can't consider yourself a productive human being unless you've studied God's creation and done something to cultivate it for yourself and kind. So that's pretty much what got me into beekeeping and what's keeping me into beekeeping. I mean, I love it.
How do you fertilize your soil?
As far as the fertilizer that I use, I try to be as natural as possible. I literally go to the local stables and get horse manure. You know, I'll actually haul horse manure, which is a pretty good fertilizer. Of course, I've been composting for a while. Composting. All my vegetable scraps, coffee grinds and whatnot, I compost it with my worm in my worm bins, and everything seems to work out fine. So composting, that's basically how I do my fertilizing, you know, all natural. And this is why I think you'll find a growing trend among people these days who are into urban and community gardens. I myself started a community garden, and this right now it seemed to be a growing trend, but like I said earlier, I believe this will become a necessity. So I would encourage any and everybody, if you have little to no land, find some way to grow something for yourself. I mean, it's easy. Just think about it. This is the oldest, most ancient, most basic type of knowledge that it seems as though society has become so removed from. Being able to grow your own food. I mean, it's almost as simple as getting a seed, putting it in the ground, and letting nature just take its place. But we've become so removed from reality and this basic ancient knowledge that we've become so accustomed to an artificial society where we literally depend on somebody else who really doesn't have our best interest at heart to feed us. When you really think about it, that is insane. That's insanity, where you literally depend on somebody else who really don't give a damn about you to feed you, to grow your own food. And the more we research and find out the chemicals, the harmful chemicals, the harmful genetically modified engineering that takes place with our food supply, and how the food supply of the people is in the hands of what the Louis Farrakhan refers to as the merchants of death, then again it becomes vitally essential and necessary that we grow our own food, that we live off our own land. I mean, it's almost like it's stupid if we don't. So I'm trying to get ahead while I can, and I'm trying to encourage as many others to do the same.